Why does silence unsettle us? Why do we rush to fill quiet moments with movement, with validation, with anything that proves we are still connected, still alive, still relevant? And why in particular does a woman's retreat from visibility, from desire, from engagement, from being emotionally accessible disturb us the most? We live in a culture that worships presence in its most performative form. We're taught to show up, be desirable, be open, be emotionally available. Especially if you're a woman, this demand isn't subtle. It's woven into every script she's handed. From girlhood, visibility is survival. To be seen is to be wanted, and to be wanted is to be worthy. So what happens when she stops? When she chooses absence over access, stillness over stimulation, retreat over reaction? The world doesn't call her wise. It calls her broken, cold, detached, wasting time, wasting life. But what if her silence isn't an absence? It's a recalibration. What if her withdrawal is not a symptom of failure, but the sacred beginning of a deeper kind of power? This video is about that moment. That turning point in a woman's life when the old roles begin to feel false, when the thrill of being pursued becomes a burden, when love that once felt fulfilling now feels like noise. And she stops, not to punish herself, not to spite the world, but because something deeper is calling. Something ancient, something whole, something real. Before we begin, subscribe to the Mental Dose channel and join our Telegram community for early access to more of these transformative explorations. Now, let's begin. The myth of presence. In today's emotional economy, the currency is attention. The more desirable you are, the more valuable you're told you must be. There's a pressure not just to participate, but to perform. A woman's smile isn't just joy, it's service. Her vulnerability isn't just expression, it's entertainment. Her availability isn't a gift, it's an expectation. So when she chooses abstinence not just from sex, but from the emotional labor of being constantly available, she threatens something unspoken. She disrupts the rhythm. She stops dancing to a tune that never belonged to her in the first place. But the world doesn't like when women go quiet. It has no idea what to do with a woman who doesn't need the mirror of desire to feel alive. This silence, this abstinence is not suppression. It is redirection. And from within that redirection, the first whispers of transformation begin. The descent inward. At first, the silence feels strange. The rituals of connection, even the most superficial ones, gave structure to her days. A glance, a text, a flirtation, small hits of emotional sugar that kept the hunger at bay. But now the sugar is gone. She's left with a rawness that can't be glossed over. The initial days of abstaining from sex, attention, roles, even digital presence feel like detox. There's a dizziness, a disorientation, and then a kind of grief. Not for a person, not even for a relationship, but for a version of herself she no longer wants to maintain. As her body stops reaching, her spirit begins listening. Dreams return. Not the fantasy kind, but the archetypal ones, strange symbols, ancestors, lost memories rising from the subconscious like old bones from the bottom of a river. Her skin feels more. Her breath deepens. Her intuition no longer whispers, it hums. The body she once used to attract is now the vessel through which truth begins to stir. This isn't loneliness. It's reclamation. This isn't deprivation. It's the rediscovery of her own company, and it terrifies those who need her dependent to feel secure in their own importance. The stripping away. But stillness is not peace at first. Stillness is confrontation. As she stops moving outward, everything unresolved moves inward. The roles she played begin to peel off. The names she answered to lover, partner, goddess, helper, muse feel foreign now. What remains is something unscripted, untitled, bare. This is the descent, not into depression, but into depth, not into isolation, but into individuation. And it hurts. Not because it's wrong, but because it's honest. In the absence of others, she finally meets herself, and for the first time, she doesn't turn away. This is where shame tries to sneak in. Society calls her barren, dried out, frigid. She's told she's wasting her beauty, her years, her chance. But in her bones, she knows, the only thing she's wasting is the illusion that external validation will ever make her whole. The tension of transition. There's a liminal space that follows. She's no longer who she was, but not yet who she's becoming. The silence becomes a forge. Her old identity disintegrates slowly, memory by memory, desire by desire. She grieves relationships she used to chase. She mourns the performance of the self she curated so carefully for male approval, for social acceptance, for belonging. And in that mourning, she finds her voice, not the voice others taught her to use, but the one buried beneath the noise of expectation. The silence is brutal at times. The ache of being unseen can be sharp. But over time, the ache becomes a kind of rhythm, a pulse, a beat. And she begins to build again, not outward but inward. The sacred middle. Time passes and something shifts. What once felt like absence now feels like sanctuary. What once felt like deprivation now feels like discernment. She doesn't just abstain from sex, she abstains from over-explaining, from apologizing for her needs, from shrinking her brilliance to fit someone else's story. She doesn't deny her self-love, she redefines it. She no longer begs for it. She invites it, quietly, like a priestess tending her temple. And only those who approach with reverence are allowed in. Her life becomes ritual, not the kind that demands incense and chants, but the sacred rhythm of inner sovereignty. She speaks less, but with more power. She moves slower, but with more presence. Her gaze softens, but her boundaries harden. This is not resistance. This is embodiment. She is not waiting. She is becoming. The return to herself. Eventually, something inside crystallizes. She no longer feels the need to be rescued. The fantasy of being saved dissolves into dust. She sees now she was never missing a half. She was missing her center. She doesn't fear solitude. She honors it. She doesn't fill her silence with noise. She listens to it. Her inner world no longer frightens her. It guides her. And when love returns, if it does, it will not find a woman in waiting. It will find a woman complete, not cold, not distant, but whole. She is no longer bait. She is fire. And only those who don't flinch in the presence of her flame will be invited to stay. What makes absence so powerful? Why does the simple act of withdrawing create such a ripple across the emotional fabric of relationships and society? Because absence is not emptiness. Absence is invitation. It is the space where longing lives, where curiosity awakens, where desire is no longer dictated but allowed to emerge naturally. When she pulls back, she does not vanish into thin air. She becomes a force of gravity. The silence she crafts is magnetic, charged with meaning that words cannot contain. In that silence, others are forced to confront what they truly feel, what they truly want, and what they are willing to give. This is why her withdrawal is feared. It threatens the illusion of control. It exposes dependency. It reveals the unspoken bargain beneath connection. Her absence says, "I am not here to fill your void. I am here to remind you of your own." The strength in stillness. Stillness is often mistaken for weakness in a culture obsessed with doing. But stillness is a crucible of strength. It demands courage to stand alone in the quiet and face the reflections it reveals. It requires bravery to resist the pressure to perform, to please, to conform. In stillness, the woman discovers that power is not noise. Power is presence. It is the calm in the storm, the eye that watches without judgment, the heart that beats steady beneath the chaos of expectation. She learns that she is enough, not because she says it, but because she lives it. Not because she seeks approval, but because she has found peace with herself. Unpacking the layers of desire. Desire is complex. It is not simply a hunger to be fed by others, but a profound language of the soul. When desire is entangled with dependency, it becomes a chain. But when desire arises from within, untethered from validation, it becomes a river flowing freely. The woman who withdraws is not rejecting desire. She is reclaiming it. She is learning to desire on her own terms, to honor her own rhythms, to embrace her own longings without fear or shame. This reclamation transforms desire from something that fractures her into something that frees her. It becomes a sacred fire, not a destructive one. The role of boundaries and sovereignty. Boundaries are not walls. They are bridges between self and other. They are the lines drawn in sand to protect what is sacred without isolating the spirit. The woman who embraces her sovereignty learns the art of boundary setting not as defense, but as declaration. She says yes to what nourishes her and no to what diminishes her. This clarity transforms relationships. She no longer gives pieces of herself hoping to be seen. She offers whole presence, unapologetically, and invites others to meet her there or step back. Boundaries become the architecture of her freedom. The dance between vulnerability and strength. Vulnerability is often confused with weakness. Yet vulnerability is the gateway to authentic strength. The woman who chooses stillness does not harden herself against the world. Instead, she softens with intention. Her strength is in the delicate balance of opening and protecting. She allows herself to feel deeply, to show up as she is, yet she does so from a place of groundedness. This dance is an art one learned not in textbooks, but in the crucible of experience. Reclaiming her narrative. One of the most radical acts of withdrawal is the reclaiming of her own story. The stories we tell ourselves about who we are shape our reality. For too long, the narrative of women has been written by others, by culture, by patriarchy, by expectation. In choosing silence and stillness, she also chooses to rewrite. She becomes author and editor of her own life, discarding scripts that no longer serve and penning new ones that reflect her truth. This narrative sovereignty is a quiet revolution, one that begins within but inevitably reshapes the world around her. Healing through absence. Withdrawal is also a form of healing. When she steps back from the relentless giving, from the constant chase, from the exhausting performance, she creates space for wounds to surface and mend. This healing is not linear nor neat. It is a wild, unpredictable process that requires patience and self-compassion. In this space, she confronts old pains, old betrayals, old doubts, not to be trapped by them, but to transcend them. Her healing is a gift not only to herself, but to every connection that will follow. The illusion of control and the freedom of surrender. Control is a temptation, especially in relationships. The desire to manage outcomes, to predict responses, to hold on to certainty is natural. Yet, control is an illusion that suffocates connection. In her withdrawal, the woman learns the paradox of surrender. She surrenders not in defeat, but in trust in herself, in life's unfolding, and in the mystery of what is to come. This surrender is a source of strength. It frees her from the exhausting dance of trying to fix, to please, to be everything to everyone. The mirror of relationships. When she steps back, relationships are forced to reflect back their true nature. Those built on genuine respect, mutual care, and authentic connection endure and deepen. Those based on convenience, need, or imbalance crumble or shift. Her withdrawal acts as a litmus test, revealing who truly values her and who merely consumes her. This clarity, though painful, is liberating. It allows her to invest her energy where it is truly welcomed. The power of choice. Ultimately, the journey of withdrawal is about choice. It is about reclaiming the power to say yes and no, not out of fear or obligation, but out of aligned intention. She chooses herself. She chooses her peace. She chooses her growth. This choice is an act of love for herself that radiates outward, transforming every interaction, every relationship, every moment of her life. The invitation to all women. This path is not for the faint-hearted. It asks for courage, honesty, and persistence. Yet, it offers a reward unlike any other, the chance to live fully as herself, unbound by external demands, unapologetically sovereign. If you feel this call, know that you are not alone. Many have walked this path before, and many will follow. Your silence is not absence. Your stillness is not surrender. It is the sacred soil from which your true self will rise. Closing reflection. So, why does her stillness unsettle us? Because it is a mirror we fear to face. It reflects our own dependencies, our own fears of being enough. Her withdrawal is not a rejection of love. It is a radical redefinition of it. She teaches us that true connection begins not with constant presence, but with authentic being. And in that authenticity lies the power to transform ourselves and the world around us.